Hello everyone, this is Jason with Shy Snake Games with an update on SpyDNA. This update's a little overdue. There was a comical bug which prevented me from recording a video. In effect, we were working on getting or adding clothing, this is what I'll show later in the video, to the characters, but for a while they were not staying on the characters, they kept falling off. And so that prevented us from recording the video on our normal schedule. So with that, I'll go on. So the first thing you'll see that's different with this update is our new game settings that you see when you first start the game. The big change here is you can now have two ways to start the game. You can do make your own, which is this questionnaire thing. That's what we've done in all our previous videos, and it's still in the game if you want to go through the process of customizing your character. But for those who want to get started quickly, we've added this new effectively pick a focus for your character. So if you want to be a generalist or specialize in short range, long range combat, or be stealthy, you can get a pre-made character that's effectively us just picking a preset set of answers to that questionnaire for you. And that way you can get into the game quicker. And on the right side of the screen is where the character portraits are going to go. So you'll be able to effectively pick your character's face and skin tone in the beginning. And then from there, you'll be able to customize them further. So with that, I'm going to get started. All this loads is we've also been hard at work on voice acting, and this is the voices that you'll hear when you give your character an order or when you tell them to do something. Effectively, they're acknowledging your commands. So we have several sets in-house already. If you hear the character moving around in the video, that would be the voice of Nuri in the game. She's temporarily assigned to the commander voice while we were testing all the sounds for her. So when you first start out, even if you do pick a class, you still get a chance to talk to the doctor, which I'll skip through and get us to the base. Okay, here we are at the start of the game, and you can see our commander is just standing around. The first thing I wanted to show you that we've added is this nifty little outfit customization screen for your characters. Now, the reason we did this isn't the traditional reason. So in a lot of games, when you have character customization, it's purely aesthetic and serves little to no gameplay functionality in the game. For us, that's not true. So for instance, in this case, you see the character's wearing a jacket. Each piece of clothing is rated on a number of functions it serves. For instance, one of those functions is a piece of clothing can make it possible to hide weapons. A jacket is one example of that. So you could, for instance, carry a small pistol under the jacket and have a reasonable chance that casual observers aren't going to notice that you have that. If you take the jacket off, then obviously hiding such a weapon is going to be much more difficult. The flip side of this is different pieces of clothing will affect the reaction of other players. So if you are wearing something like a jacket, security forces will be slightly more suspicious for the reason that they can't see that you're not carrying a weapon, so they don't know that if you are or not. And they'll react appropriately when you're interacting with them. Another example is here with the shoes category. So we have a number of options, and these can have modifiers. For instance, if I put on the high-heeled shoes on this character, this will actually generate a modifier to the character's movement speed and any movement dexterity checks. So effectively, by doing that, you're going to make them run a little bit slower, make things like martial arts more difficult for the character. The flip side of that is wearing outfits like that will make some NPCs respond more favorably, but you're making a trade-off between their response to the impracticality of what you're wearing. So this applies, we have our normal presets for the different types of settings. So you can go from casual, field, fancy, and for the commander only, there will be a base outfit you can set, and that'll adjust what you wear around the base. So I'm going to head over to our mission selection, and over here. And here you can actually see some of the other party that's standing around. So one of the other things we've done is we've been filling out the backgrounds for the various characters. So to the center character here, that is Nuri, and the one on the far right is Margot. I can show you some of the others here. If I go to a mission which lets me add a character, so one of the other ones we recently finished up in terms of filling out their background is Rustum, and I can show you him. He is a fairly suave character. His specialty is martial arts. He will be ideal for the situations where it's going to be difficult to impossible to smuggle in a weapon to the setting. Something like a fancy party where they have metal detectors, as an example. It would be hard to get weapons in there unless you sent someone to infiltrate ahead of time. So you could bring someone like him who's an expert in unarmed hand-to-hand combat. And he actually will have a fairly wide variety of outfits available to him. We can change change shoes here. Those should be named leather shoes, not tennis shoes. So we're trying to give a variety of playstyles and a variety of support personnel available to the player. And then there's a couple others. So you've seen our sniper from before. One of the things that we've also done is we're trying to give each character a bit of a unique look. So they each have their kind of styles. So Zoe's got a very rugged, I would say rugged look, a very simple look, not really into high fashion. By contrast, if I go and look at someone like Margot, basically everything in her wardrobe is going to be fairly chic. There's a lot of purple in there. That's one of the other things we try to do is make the characters have specific colors in their default clothing. The reason for that is when you're zoomed out of the map, we'd like you to be able to identify each character by the kind of colors that they're showing up as. So we're trying to provide enough options that for any mission, you'll have those options available to make it easier to identify who's on the map at a glance. And so Margot, I haven't talked about her in any past any past videos. She is the specialist in the base for improvisation, effectively extremely high IQ, very smart character, can make things up on the fly, and she will be very useful for missions where you're going to be in a highly technical setting and you may need to jury rig something or hack devices. Effectively, when it requires a feat of improv engineering, I guess is the best way to put it. So I'll go through a couple others. Nuri, the tallest of the female characters, she is specialized in infiltration. So you'll see she actually has a very diverse wardrobe for whatever the mission requires. She also has a martial arts background. So she is the other NPC besides Rustum that is an expert in unarmed combat. So we also joke internally that she's our Jane Bond. So if you think of something that would happen in a Bond movie, there's a good chance that it will fit her persona. Let me show you a couple other options. So you can see she's got a wide range of clothing. I think the list is actually second only to the commander in terms of the available options, just due to the expected use cases for the NPC. And Ivan. We've talked about him in the past. He is going to have a very professional military look to him. So when you see him at the base, he's actually going to be wearing his field outfit. He doesn't wear casual clothes at a military base. It is, in his view, his duty to be properly dressed in military attire when at the base. And there's one more to cover. Karsten, he's the big guy of the group. You can see one of the other things we did in this update and that drove the update. In the past, we didn't have the ability to vary the character heights or vary anything about the character sizes. So if you notice in some of our previous screenshots, the female characters were often or always were taller than the male characters if they were wearing shoes. And so we wanted to add the ability to adjust the character's height. We haven't put in a slider for the commander yet where you'll be able to pick your own height when you create your character. One of the effects that's going to have is, again, because we're a simulation and we're not a traditional game, making a taller character has the downside of making that character easier to hit because they're just physically bigger. The flip side of that is they will start with slightly more strength because they are bigger, and slightly more speed because of longer limbs. But there may also be at extremes a slight reaction penalty, just due to the physics of moving long limbs quickly in a reactionary way. So if you noticed, by comparison, Rustam, who's our martial artist, is considerably shorter than Karsten. Because he's very quick, has very quick reflexes, and so we didn't want to burden him with the height penalty that extreme height would cause in that case. So I think that's everything I wanted to cover in this update. So we are making good progress. Sorry for the late update. I promise that right before I plan to record a video, I'll try not to break everything next time, or I'll just record a smaller update earlier if I'm expecting to break things. So thanks to everyone for listening, and with that, I'll sign off. Have a look at spydna.com if you want to follow more of our progress. Thanks. Bye.